Well, it's interesting that this is coming. It just shows how horrible we are as a people. And, like Chukwuma rightly said, those in power seem to dissociate themselves from the reality of the times. They seem to forget where they're coming from and things that they spoke against before they got into power. And, well, it's just table manners. You don't
talk while eating.
You don't talk while eating. Now let's X-ray, because his statement was, if you're not eating in a restaurant, if you know where you're coming from, I think that statement was made. If you know where you're coming from, you eat, in places. So basically, Nigerians should be poor. Now, who are those that eat at roadside cafeterias, tables, and all of that? Basically, those that do all work, how hygienic are those meals? Some of them placed on top of gutters and the rest. How hygienic are those things? Those that even eat there would prefer to eat somewhere else if they had the choice. Now, let's even X-ray. You earn your pay, 1.5, which is about $1. I think a dollar is about 1.54.
Now, 1,550 something naira.
That's $1.
Yes.
So you're earning less than $1.
$1.
What are you doing? And then you buy rice. A scoop is about 500 naira. A scoop, this scoop.
Yes, without protein.
Portion.
Yes.
Without protein, yes.
Without.
Who goes
A scoop is 500 naira.
Around now?
A scoop is 500 naira. And let's say you now add protein to it. Or let's say you add beans to it, another 500 naira. That is 1,000 naira. Protein to it. You can still get for 300 naira a piece. You get 300 naira. You manage, you eat 1-3, and then you take water. That's one meal. What happens at lunchtime? What happens at dinner time? That's all for the day. So that basically is, if this is to be the mind of the president, if this individual who is speaking from the presidency is speaking the mind of the president, then it will be safe to say that the president intends for Nigerians to eat only once a day and starve for the rest of the day. And that is what empowers politicians to ask those that supposedly, and I use that word loosely, elected them into office to sit down on bare floors, and they give them 500 naira. And that is why an official can tell you that 500 naira, which is nothing close to $1, will go a long way for a pregnant woman in Nigeria that we are in. Quite unfortunately.
I'm sorry, you said something, whether the young man was speaking the mind of the president. It merely re-echoed what the president already said, that Nigerians were living above their... Yes, you talked about the friend who was driving a Porsche, And he's now driving just one Toyota Corolla and all of that. So it reflects the mindset of the president, because before they come out to say these things, they must have to, get some kind of clearance from the president before they come to speak. It's not strange.
That's
what they think of us.
The part that interests me the most was when this man went for that to talk about our social way of living, where a man can leave his house and go and be with his sister and the brother.
The person you're going to be with, wouldn't they earn a living too? Anyway, let's move away from that conversation, as that, we can go on and on about that one. Well, that also is a pointer to you that will be voting in 2027. You know exactly who you're voting for, all right? It's not about my brother. It's about who will move Nigeria forward, who will put food on your table. Well, Nigerian government has raised concerns over U.S. President Trump's tariff, which could disrupt trade and weaken the competitiveness of Nigerian oil and non-oil exports in the U.S. market. Minister Dr. Jumoke Oduwole acknowledged the policy's impact, noting Nigeria's annual exports to the U.S. have averaged $5 to about $6 billion in recent years. Yes, of course, I think it's a 14% tariff the U.S. has placed on Nigeria, goods from Nigeria, And it's, of course, it will affect the economy. We do about 90% of our exports, which isn't up to, I don't think it's up to 1 trillion naira.
No, it's not.
90% of our exports to the US is oil. Now, 2%, 2 to 3% is agriculture. You know, so, and then we know how it is with oil now. And Nigeria is not the only country that the US is getting oil from. They also have oil anyway. And, you know, while we talk about Nigeria and how this affects us, some other African country, Zimbabwe, has said that, look, it's going to be free tariff for goods coming from the US. The president of Mnangagwa and whether or not US will bend, we wait to see, because there are protests in the US as well. Americans are protesting the policies of Donald Trump. Well, Nigeria, we should look elsewhere, look at other places, look to produce and, you know, sell other things. Minerals, we have minerals. We have copper, gold. All these things can be exported to other countries and we will make revenue. Our budget is tied to oil, and that's why this will affect us as badly as analysts have said it would. Well, it just shows that you can develop other sectors. She knows why she's back. She knows exactly why she's back. Well, why did she go in the first place? To seek greener pastures. Yeah. And we know that, yes, home is the best, east or west, you know, no, blah, blah, blah. You know, and, you know, work. Let me take you from what Fina said, you know, quoting her, of course, that you're working in a place, you're not appreciated. I don't think the percentage of those that enjoy what they do for work is very minute. That's a minute percentage. Every other person would ordinarily want to just sit down in the Bahamas, sip on something, and get paid. But then, work is not fucked up. You have to show up. You have to do the work. That's why it's called work. It's a job you do. You don't go there to frolic. You don't go there to dance. Even those that dance for a living, they put in the work. Sometimes they feel pain in their ankles, but they have to work. That's what work is. But I hope this isn't about, you know, the nurses that have been asked to leave the US, come back to Nigeria because of the CBT test that they did that's been tagged a fraud. You know, I hope this isn't about that. But whatever the case may be, she's made a decision and we wish her well. She's back to Nigeria where we are struggling with electricity. I mean, the food I made the other day that was supposed to last for about 2 weeks, I have to finish in less than a week because there's no power. I mean, if you're not home and there's no light, your food will go bad. So welcome home, where we are buying fuel for almost 1,000 naira now. Welcome home, Judy. Yes, come on to the number of those of us, and probably out to the protest much later if you're not joining them today. Oh, well, away from all of that conversation, let's now take a look at stories that made it to the cover pages of the dailies. Let's not waste any time. Let's just dive straight into it. From the Nigerian Tribune, we have these headlines here. The window headlines are: Nigerian airports, airlines grapple with financial woes. Trump's tariffs. Nigeria, in consultation with US WTO FG, says tariff may impact competitiveness of Nigerian goods. FG expanding alternative markets access opportunities. Development may create new opportunities, but, and that's coming from the LCCI. And then the banner headline, Plateau killings, enough is enough. Ribadu warns. Nigeria going through tough, difficult times, he says. Muftwang vows to prosecute perpetrators. ACS